Imagine you've created a payroll system and you have a procedure that calculates an employee salary. When you pass the salary value into the procedure, everything worked perfectly. But suddenly, the original salary value changes even though you've never told VBA to change it. You then went on to check your calculations. Everything looks correct, so you must be wondering what happened. The answer is hidden inside these two small keywords, by val and by ref. These two words control how VBA passes information between procedures, and choosing the wrong one creates unexpected changes in your application. Today, you will learn the differences between by val and by ref, how VBA handles data behind the scenes, and when professional VBA developers use each one. Let's get started. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Raphael, and on this channel, we learn how to transform Microsoft Excel into a professional software development platform using VBA. In our previous lessons, we covered variables, data types, option explicit, variable scope, sub-procedures and functions, and passing data between procedures. Now we are going deeper into one of the most important concepts when working with procedures: how VBA passes data. When you send information from one procedure to another, VBA needs to decide, should I send a copy of this information, or should I allow this procedure to work with the original information? This is exactly where by val and by ref come in. Understanding how VBA passes data. Before we discuss by val or by ref, let's review what we learned in our previous episode. When we call a procedure, we can send information using an argument. For example, in this example, we are sending salary to another procedure, but VBA has two ways of sending this information. It can send it as a copy of the value, or decide to send the original variable itself. That difference is what by val and by ref control. What is by val? By val means by value. When you pass a variable using by val, VBA creates a copy of the original value and sends that copy to the procedure. The original variable remains unchanged. Looking at our previous example, dim salary as double. Salary is equal to 5,000. Then we say increase salary is salary. Now let's go ahead to pass the function into another sub by writing this. To see how VBA will work with our code behind the scenes, let's go to View and enable the local window. After that, press F8 to step through the code line by line while keeping an eye on the local window. What did you notice? When we run increase salary, the value becomes 6,000. This is true because naturally, when we add 5,000 to 1,000, we are supposed to get 6,000. But observe this. As soon as we return back to the main function, the value becomes 5,000. Why did this happen? This is because VBA only passed on a copy of the main function to the increase salary procedure, but took it back before increase salary could make good use of it. And we can see the final result printed out here as 5,000. Let's look at by val from this perspective. When you give someone a photocopy of a document, they can write on it, they can make changes to it, but your original document remains untouched. By val tells VBA to maintain your original copy for you whenever a procedure runs. What is by ref? By ref means by reference. In this way, instead of sending a copy to the procedure, VBA sends a reference to the original variable, and this allows the procedure to work directly with the original data. To demonstrate this, let's change the part of our code that says by val to by ref. And step through the code once again. Still keep an eye on the local window. Did you notice any difference in the way VBA is using by ref? This time, before calling the procedure salary, which is 5,000, inside the procedure, amount changes to 6,000. After returning, salary is still 6,000, and this can also be printed out as 6,000. Imagine you give someone your original copy. They can make changes directly on that document. When they return it, the changes remain. That's what by ref stands for. The procedure has direct access to the original variable. Let's look at the comparison between by val and by ref. By val sends a copy of the original value, while by ref uses the original variable. By val does not make any change to the original value, but by ref makes changes to the original value. In terms of safety, by val is usually safe to use. However, by ref requires care. And in terms of performance, by val uses slightly more memory, while by ref is more efficient. When it comes to the default behavior, VBA uses by ref instead of by val. And that's something that surprises many beginners. In VBA, if you don't specify anything, but write this, for instance, sub example into bracket value as integer, end sub. VBA assumes that you meant to write sub example into bracket by ref value as integer, end sub. This means that VBA will use by ref as default. This is why beginners sometimes see values changing unexpectedly. Professional developers will usually specify their intention clearly. For example, they will write sub example into bracket by val value as integer, end sub, or sub into bracket by ref value as integer, end sub. In this way, your code becomes easier to understand. Let's imagine we are creating a payroll application and we have employee salary which is 5,000. Now we want to calculate tax, but we don't want the original salary to change. We only need a temporary calculation. So a good choice for us to make is to write our function this way. Function calculate tax by val salary as double. Then end function. This function will receive only a copy of the original copy. The salary remains safe. Now imagine we want to update a customer's balance. We can then write our code this way. Sub update balance by ref balance as double. End sub. Here, changing the original value is intentional, and using by ref makes sense. Let's look at some common beginner mistakes. Mistake number 1, allowing accidental changes to take place by writing sub discount into bracket price as double, end sub. Because VB assumes by ref by default, price changes can occur unexpectedly. So it is better for you to use by ref in this instance. Mistake number 2, using by ref everywhere. Some developers use by ref because it is default, but this can make large applications difficult to debug. Always ask, should this procedure change the original value? If no, use by val. If yes, use by ref. Mistake number 3, not understanding functions. Total equal to calculate total into bracket price comma quantity. Here, using by val is ideal because it helps to protect the original information. Let's look at some professional development rules to follow. Use by val by default. Why? Because it protects your data. Only use by ref when you intentionally want a procedure to modify the original variable. This makes your code safer, easier to understand, and easier to debug. Using by val and by ref in large VB applications. As your application grows, you may have multiple user forms, database operations, hundreds of procedures, thousands of variables. A small unexpected change can create difficult bugs. Imagine a POS system where changing one variable accidentally affects sales total, inventory quantity, and customer balances. Understanding how to use by val and by ref helps prevent these problems. Let's look at this. By val is used to send a copy, protect original data. It is good for calculations and a safer option to use. By ref, on the other hand, sends the original variable, allows changes to take place, useful when updating values intentionally, and requires careful use. Today, you've learned what by val means, what by ref means, how VBA passes information between procedures, why variable sometimes changes unexpectedly, when to use by val, and when to use by ref. Understanding by val and by ref is a major step toward becoming a professional VBA developer. These concepts may seem small, but they are exactly the kind of details that separate simple macros from well-designed business applications. In the next episode, we will explore another important VBA skill, and that is VBA cell referencing made easy. You will learn how VBA communicates with worksheets, how to reference cells professionally, and how to build dynamic Excel applications that can work with changing data. If this tutorial helped you understand by val and by ref, give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Raffiner Systems Excel VBA Developer Series for more professional VBA tutorials. And in the comment below, have you ever experienced a VBA variable changing unexpectedly? Was by val or by ref the reason? Share your experience. Thank you for watching and see you in the next episode. Bye for now.